Okay, what we're going to do now is we're just going to do the classic smooth out a flesh tone. What we don't want to do is make it look like this woman's had the worst facelift of all time. And we've all seen a magazine or two where that's probably happened. So I need to have complete flexibility over this. So when I actually smooth out this flesh tone, I want it to be natural, I want it to be proportional, and I need to have control over it. So once I've done it, I can then feather the strength of this. So let's just get on and do it. It's quite a convoluted thing. The first section of this little retouch I actually picked up 4 or 5 years ago at a trade show somewhere. Can't remember where it was. My part is really the application of it. I needed to find a mechanism where I could just make it an automated feature. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to say select all, because what I need to do is I need to copy what I'm looking at right now into the clipboard. I don't want to be copying just the background layer which I've selected or any of the other layers that I've selected. So I have to say select all, and then I go in here and I say copy merged. That will copy what I'm looking at, the collective of all of those layers together, into the clipboard. Then what I'm going to do is select the top layer so that my next layer that I make, group I make, will be on top. So I just now say make a group. I'm just going to name this smooth. While that's selected, I'm then just going to say edit paste, edit paste. So now I've got 2 copies of my image inside that layer group. The bottom one I'm going to call L, the top one I'm going to call D. You'll see why in a minute. First thing I'm going to do is just turn off the top one because I'm just working on this one now. And now I need to blur this. So I'm just going to do a Gaussian blur. And the objective of this is to blur both of the layers to create kind of a photographic soft focus effect. So in this case, all I'm going to do is blur the L layer with 4 pixels. Then I'm going to go to the top one, and I'm going to go back to Gaussian blur, and I'm going to blur it then of 2. I usually blur the second one half the first one. So the ratio of what we're going to do between the 2 of them is going to be roughly about 2 to 1. So you can now see, if we put it in actual pixels, you'll see now that we have a kind of a soft image going on in here. What I need to do now is do the part which is going to create the kind of soft focus effect. So that these 2 blend together, what we're going to do is just select the L layer and put it in lighten mode, and select the dark layer, the D layer, and put it in darken mode. Then go back to the L layer, go to the move tool or V on the keyboard, and then hit 8 on the keyboard. That's going to change the opacity of that layer to 80%. Then I go to the D layer and I hit 4 on the keyboard. That's going to make it 40%. So let me zoom this up a little bit more. So we've got some kind of a mixture of the 2 images. We've got blur and sharp kind of mixed together, and it looks absolutely appalling at the moment. The reason why that is because I've put these layers inside a folder. What I need to do with this folder, instead of it saying the word pass through at the top, I just need it to say normal. And now I have a really nice mixture of the sharp image underneath and the soft image which is sitting on top. So now what we've got to do is do the mask. That's a really, really good effect. Obviously it's subjective as to how much you have opacity and also how much you blur it. Depends on the resolution, the size, and how close you are in on the subject, but at the moment we're just doing a pretty bog standard one. These are my start points, 4 and 2. So making the mask, again it's not going to be any surprise that we're actually going to use one of the channels here. So I'm just going to turn off the effect so I can see the image without the effect in place, and then just look at the red, green and blue. And with all things to do with flesh tones, it's always going to be the red channel that I'm going to use as a start point to create the mask that is going to leave the flesh tone nice and smooth, but mask out the smoothing from the eyes and the eyelashes and the eyebrows and stuff and the lips. So the red is really quite good as it stands. It's just going to need maybe a small amount of work. What I'll do is I'll just do what I usually do, which is I'll go to now my background layer and choose the red. Then I'm going to go up to calculations, and I'm going to see that Is it going to be better if I do calculate it? So again, I'm going to put it in merged for source 1 and source 2. They're both the same, they're red. Then I'm just going to say, if I put that in overlay and put some contrast on that red, is it going to look any better? And I think the answer is yes. The eyebrows now are much darker, the eye, the pupil, the iris are darker, the eyelashes are darker, which means the darker they are, the more they will mask the smoothing. So I won't then have to paint in between these eyelashes like this. So if we now just go back into selection and just say OK, I can now move back up, turn on my smooth folder, and on that layer group I can now just say make layer mask. So when I do that, that's going to be the first stage of masking out all the areas which I don't want to be smooth, leaving only the flesh tone to be smooth. And at the moment you can see it's actually really quite extreme. That's not a problem because we can always feather this afterwards, we can always reduce the effect. The reason why I'm going to do this the way I'm going to here, there's a number of different techniques for doing this, but this is one of the few times where I actually nest layer groups. Nesting is where you can take one folder and stick it inside another folder. So what we're going to do here is to simply make another folder, layer group, and put that inside. So you can see that it's all staggered now. The only reason for doing that is because I've already used up the alpha channel for that layer group. I can't put another bitmap alpha channel on there. So I need to put that inside there so I can now have another mask which has got my edits, because obviously the eyes in here are still quite soft, the lips are really soft. I need to add my extras to what this mask is doing down here. What I really don't want to do is actually select that mask, get a black brush and then brush in, because I won't be able to then change my mind. I'll be destroying that actual mask. So go up to group number 1, and now I come down to add layer mask, I click on it, and now you can see it's made a white mask. That's now ready for me to now brush the areas to reduce the smoothing. So I'm just going to go Apple plus or Control plus on the PC just to show you the eye. The eye, you can see, has got some smoothing still working in there, in the catch light and in the whites of the eyes. So I'm just going to go onto the actual mask, select black as the foreground colour, choose my brush, put it in 50% strength by hitting 5 on the keyboard, and as you can see now it's 50. And now when I brush, I'll be brushing away the smoothing effect and allowing the eye to come through. So all I have to do is work on the areas that I need to embellish just slightly. I'll just hold down the space bar and move that over to the other eye. And as I brush it, it now just reduces the smoothing again. There's a huge difference between the sharp area and the smooth area at the moment. I need that difference to be really big so I can see what I'm doing. I'm certainly not going to leave it that way. We'll do the fine adjustments afterwards. We'll zoom that back a little bit so we can see the lips. And now all I'm going to do is brush the lips in so they're 100% strength. Or they're not soft at all. Okay. So, Apple 0, go full screen, and now we can see what we've done. Okay. If I needed to brush in the hair areas, I would a little bit, or if I needed to brush a little bit more in the eyebrows, I can. Anywhere where you brush on this second alpha channel will reduce the sharpness. All I need to do now is feather it slightly. So again, I'm just going to go back into actual pixels, and I now want to work out how soft that flesh tone needs to be. So what I do, I'll close down there. This group here contains my soft focus effect. I just go to V on the keyboard, that will go to the move tool, and now I can use the keyboard numerics just to now feather that in. So if I just simply say 50% by hitting 5 on the keyboard, I'm now integrating it. So if we now just turn off the layer and turn it on, you should be able to see now that it's much, much more pleasing. And obviously we can say 10%, 90%, 50%, whatever. So I'm going to leave this actually on 60. I want to slightly overcook it for this because obviously we're working through monitors and on a video camera and stuff, so I'm going to overdo it slightly. So there you go. So just to recap, 2 copies of the image, put inside a folder, an overlaid red channel goes on that folder to mask it, and then so I can fine tune the mask, I put the group inside another group, put another alpha channel on there, and then I can separate my embellishments to the really good quality mask underneath. And that's how we soften the flesh tone.